Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗓. Get it? Entrepreneur? Come on! The Entrepreneur Podcast discusses the good, the bad, and most importantly, the ugly of what it's like being an entrepreneur in today's day and age. So join us for some fun, laughs, and straight up shop talk.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓, and if this is your first time to listening to the podcast, I do appreciate you tuning in. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about something that I've actually been wanting to do an episode on for a while, and I think it's kind of a good heads up episode, if you will. So again, in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the loneliness of entrepreneurship, what it's like, and how I deal with it on a day-to-day basis. So I actually asked a few business owners before I came on to record, what some of their experiences were and, what the loneliest part about entrepreneurship was for them. So one of the things that they had said was the fact that, nobody really understands, what it is I'm going through. Number one, because they don't understand my business. But in addition, they just, don't understand being an entrepreneur in general. So, a lot of what I do, a lot of what he does, is a lot of e-commerce. So a lot of your peers, your entrepreneurial peers are, via social media or, you might talk to them in Skype or, just some other form of media, but they're just not local. And, that does kind of tend to become a difficulty, especially when you're new to an industry or, you need to figure certain things out, right? And I think that along with him, this is something that probably 100% of entrepreneurs actually go through because, for instance, I have a lot of friends who are really good at certain things. Some of them are good at art. I have a friend who's good at making cornhole boards, and this, for example. So I'm always trying to get him to see if we can find wholesalers on lumber, so that way we can get the lumber cheaper, and so that way he can sell more at a time. And, it is something that obviously interests him, but just not in the same way that it interests me. And so it's not just with him, it's with a lot of my other friends as well, right? So, I kind of gave up on trying to turn my friends' hobbies into, businesses or money makers, if you will, because, not everyone is interested in it. In business, in being an entrepreneur. And that becomes very difficult at times because, everyone has a 9-to-5 and, everyone, or not, I shouldn't say everyone and generalize, but most people have a 9-to-5, and so they can talk to, family members or friends about how their day was, or, this boss or that boss. When you own your own business, there's really nobody that you can complain to about your boss because everything starts with you and it ends with you, right? Everything, like Gary Vee says, everything is your fault. And that is essentially true because you are making every decision and you are having to figure out, how you're gonna solve certain problems. And so because most people don't understand that, and because most people, have never owned a business, it's really hard for them to give you feedback, right? It's not their fault. It's not like they're not listening. It's just that nobody really understands the day-to-day of, starting a business, running a business, and everything that has to go into the operations of a business. And it becomes really difficult at times because, for instance, I'm extremely lucky in the sense that I have a wife who supports me. I mean, she almost has a blind faith in, in whatever it is that I want to do. She's like, yeah, sure. If you think it's going to work, then, go for it. I'm with you 100%. I've got your back. And, that makes me and my risk taking ability, it allows me to take more risk, right? And so that's really important. A lot of people may not have that support, or, they may have a spouse or family member who isn't so supportive. And that becomes really difficult because you're already trying to go outside the box, right? You're already trying to do something that others aren't necessarily doing. There might be other people trying to do the same business that you are, but there's not other people essentially around you who are trying to start a business. And because of that, it becomes extremely difficult to try to talk out a lot of your problems. So I've been extremely fortunate, in the online community that I've been a part of the past few years, because there are quite a few people that I can surround myself, even though they aren't local. I can surround myself around certain people, and I can reach out to them at times. Maybe not talk about the loneliness or things like that, but I can talk to them about some of the issues that I'm going through, with designing the website, or coming up with different ways to find solutions to build out the website. There are people in the online community that I'm part of that have gone through that, right? So I can talk to my wife and tell her, hey, I'm going through this, and unfortunately the call to action buttons aren't working, and talk the jargon, but it doesn't really mean much to her, right? She just knows and cares that I have an issue. But really, I'm trying to also try to seek solutions to certain things that she just may not have knowledge of. So it's nice to reach out to people who do have the same struggles that you do on a day-to-day basis, right? Because one of them, actually the gal who's building out my website, who's my website designer for 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔, I asked her, what her loneliest part of entrepreneurship was. And she had mentioned that she, it's not so much that people don't understand, but she starts to feel isolated. In the fact, and I do understand it. I don't want to speak for her, but I know with me, it would be really cool if I could talk to, other people about, my business, and maybe I'm always interested in having people be a part of my business, or just one way or another, right? And there's just no common interest locally. So what she said she does is she actually started joining more of the local like business commerce, or like the business communities locally. And she said ever since she started doing that, she says that she's felt a lot more comfortable not only talking about her struggles in business, but it just became a lot better for her to deal with, because there are more people immediately near you, and it's awesome. I remember there was a gentleman who builds out a software for Amazon drop shipping, and his name is Ron, and he's the owner of the software, and extremely knowledgeable, and very successful in drop shipping. And he actually lives in the Sherman Oaks area, which is only about an hour from here. And so, he was kind enough to, extend himself and give me the time to go out and, pick his ear and talk to him about a lot of the struggles, and actually about a lot of my fears in regards to not only starting Amazon drop shipping, but a lot of the things that kind of come with it, right? Amazon is a different beast than eBay. I know a lot of you have heard me talk about eBay quite a bit. But Amazon is different. So it was really nice to talk with someone like Ron in person, who has been doing it successfully for some period of time. And, yes, it is nice, to reach out to others online, but to be there one-on-one, face-to-face is obviously just extremely invaluable, especially when, somebody has a knowledge like that. So I definitely, have been meaning to look into, local business, business communities or just business groups. And because I think that it would help, me. And what's really cool is, with podcasting, one of the guys that I actually look up to in regards to entrepreneurship is my buddy, Frank 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔. So he has a podcast called Downtime with 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔, and he probably started maybe about a year ago, and the dude is just flying through episodes, and he's getting really, really good guests, and I feel like the guests that he brings on are not only knowledgeable, but they provide a lot of insight about their life struggles and what they might be going through in not only business but also life. So it was really nice to sit down with him the other day and talk to him about his podcast, because he was talking about some of the things that he's not happy with, just not happy with, but some of the struggles that he's going through with the podcast. And it was cool for us to kind of just shoot back a lot of our ideas, because one of the things that we noticed was the fact that we're both dealing with a lot of the same things. Even though he's on, forgive me, Frank, for not knowing, but, he's on episode 160, and, here I am on episode 9, right? So even though I'm here and he's there with so many episodes in difference, we're still dealing with the same exact things, right? Just on a different level, just on a different scale. And it was cool that, somebody else actually does understand, because podcasting it's pretty, it can almost become a job, right? I know we get a little greedy as podcast listeners. I know I do myself. Every time there's not a new episode, I know that I'm not in that position to where people are waiting for my stuff to come out, but it does become, it does kind of feel like another job, essentially. And it's not that you stop enjoying doing it, but, you hope that, something, people do start to appreciate it, and you hope that it's not going for nothing, basically. And I guess I do essentially feel that way sometimes, when I don't get that many, listeners or views on YouTube or anything like that. So I'm very grateful for the few people that do listen. But the few people that do listen, I would just hope that, it doesn't go, it doesn't go for nothing. I hope that the information that I put out is valuable. I do hope that people do enjoy it, because sometimes, it does become, again, a little lonely when, you're trying to do this all on your own. There's no production, there's no nothing, right? And so it starts to become a little, I don't want to use the word scary, but everything is just uncertain. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to talk about as well, is the fact that in entrepreneurship, you're always uncomfortable. You're always uncomfortable for so many different reasons. And while I've become okay with I've become comfortable with being uncomfortable, there is always that unknown, right? And the uncertainty. And, the reason why is because you're basically having to figure out everything for yourself. And obviously, there's a ton of resources out there, but until you start actually building out the business and until you start putting things into play, there's a lot of variables that you really just do not account for. And if you don't have somebody that is experienced, or you don't have somebody who has the knowledge to assist you in what it is that you're doing, you have to figure it out yourself. And that's been my situation for all of my businesses, I would say, except the last few. And that's where, such as the eBay drop shipping, where I took the course, the eBay dropshipping course, and Tom Cormier became basically my mentor in eBay dropshipping. So anytime I ever need anything, he was there, right? But he also pushed me to find solutions on my own. With the website building, I'm fortunate to have Jenny, who is my website designer, who has basically, held my hand all the way through this, and has kind of, I'll tell her how I want, but I'm like, hey, if you don't, you're the boss, just kind of let me know like how and why things are happening, so that way I can learn and I can understand moving forward. So that's been extremely beneficial as well. But you don't always have that, right? And that is, number one, uncomfortable. It's very nerve-wracking. And until you find a solution, or until you start working your way towards a solution, it's hard to sleep. Excuse me. It's hard to sleep. It's hard to concentrate on, maybe work life, home life even. It becomes very, very difficult, right? So then you almost start talking to yourself, and because you're talking to yourself, you're not listening to everything that's going on around you. And then you just kind of slowly and naturally start becoming lonely, right? Which is difficult at times, especially when you have a business that maybe isn't successful. And that's one of the things that's been really hard for me is I don't feel like I have I don't feel like I found my nugget or my egg, right? And I'm not saying that I haven't found the thing that is going to make me rich overnight or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But I just, it's been difficult because I've been, trying to find something that I can really dig my feet into. And it's been hard over the past, when did I start the No Drop? 2012. So over the past 8 years, it's been difficult, trying to find that one thing. And I would say that part of it might be because I haven't given certain things long enough to pan out. So that's why I'm really excited for 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓𝗔. 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓𝗔 is going to be launching probably towards the end of this week. I don't think it'll launch by the time before this episode comes out, because this episode will probably come out within the next few days. But we are going to launch. I know. So for those of you who might be listening, we did launch 𝗦𝗢𝗓𝗔 in 2018, but there was a lot of different things that were just not working with the site, and were just not. It just wasn't worth continuing to put up until we were able to build out what we've done today. So it's pretty cool. On 𝗦𝗢𝗓𝗔, you can, upload your child's artwork, and we turned it into custom printed products. So, the really cool thing is you can, see a live 3D preview, or you can see a live mock-up of what your artwork will look like on whatever product it is that you printed. And that's actually, what has been so essential, because before you were kind of just submitting something blindly, and it was very difficult from a user standpoint to use. So we've been building that out over the last few months, and now we're just about ready to launch. So, yes, it did take a lot of figuring out. And I know that I went off thought there, kind of went off on a tangent, but, you do start to get lonely when you can't find solutions to certain things, and you begin to break down because it's not successful, right? And that's getting me back to my thought, is that's why I'm so excited about 𝗦𝗢𝗓𝗔, because I am motivated, and I do feel like this is something that I not only believe in, but that I can make successful. So even though it's just starting, I don't feel like this is going to be the same as some of my other smaller ventures may have been, because this is something that I'm really investing a lot of time. I do feel like it's a viable product or company, if you will. And so that's where, I'm going to be spending 2020 is trying to build that out. So I'm really excited, but also nervous at the same time. So it's going to be nerve-wracking, because part of what I want to do with 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓 is I do want to partner with different, maybe children's organizations or daycares, and I want to, find some way to encourage them to print their artwork on some of our products, and or basically any sale that's made through them, we would donate a portion back into that daycare or that organization. And really the goal is to try to inspire children to not only be creative, but to be themselves. Some of the things that my daughter brings home from school and she tells me what it is, it's like, where did you think of that, right? And it's not about the picture, it's about the idea in her head, and her being able to put that into not only a picture, but into words and into a thought, right? It's something that she created in her mind. And so we want to try to motivate kids and inspire them to be themselves, right? Whatever that might be. So it's going to be difficult, because I'm going to probably have to deal with a lot of rejection. And that's another thing that's very difficult about entrepreneurship, is the rejection. When you're in, when let's say you're in a sales job and you get rejected, right? You can always go back to work. You're still going to get paid. You might not get commission, but when it's your business and when it's your doing, if you're getting rejected, you're essentially not making money. And when that starts happening, it starts to become, scarier and scarier, because chances are you're putting money into it, right? Whether you're just going door to door, going into different places, whether you're calling them, I'm sure that you're putting some sort of monetary, you're monetarily putting into, trying to build out your business. And if you're constantly getting rejected and you're constantly getting said no to, then you're going to start becoming, a little weary about where the money or the income is going to start coming in, right? Because it's not like certain things stop. You still have to pay for the website. You still have to pay for this. You still have to pay for that. And so the rejection starts to sink in very, very quickly. I remember when I was selling the no drop, and I was going around, what I would do when I was selling the no drop, once we had got the shipment in, I was working for a garage door manufacturing company in Arizona. And on my lunch break, I would sit in my car and I would cold call into district offices of big box stores. So I would call into Bed Bath & Beyond. I would call into, Walmart. I would call into just different big box stores, and even local stores I would call into. And every single one obviously said no. And it sucked, right? It sucked because, at the time it was something that I wanted so badly to work. Hindsight, the product may not have been as viable as I had thought, right? So there was a lot of lessons learned there. But even though I continued to get rejected, I continued to work at it, and eventually I got it into a local Ace Hardware store. And it sold a few units there. It was in there for a couple years until they actually sold the store. And that was kind of that. But the whole time, it sucked, right? It's I would go back into the office and be like, man, like that sucked. And my coworkers and stuff knew about the no drop, and I would be like, hey, oh, man, that sucked. Like, I just called Bed Bath & Beyond. I just called Target. Like, they all said no. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, but they're like, it to them, it didn't really, mean anything. They were just kind of like, oh, that sucks, I had sent it into As Seen on TV. I had sent an inquiry, and they had actually requested a sample of my product. And, it was then I was like, wow, like I've actually submitted to this before, but every time they just actually send you a rejection email. But in this instance, the people had actually reached, it was Telebrands actually that I had sent it to. And they had reached out to me and said, hey, we actually do want to see a sample of your product and run it across the team. And I was like, wow, like, like I was like, oh, I think like this could be really cool. And, she kind of ghosted me. And then maybe like 6 weeks later, she just ended up saying, yeah, it just didn't pass through screening. And so I was like, once that happened, I was like, if they can't do anything with it, what am I going to do with it? I still continue to push it, but it just became, harder and harder. And it was really, really, it was really tough, to spend the money and to, just kind of go through that and for it to not pan out. It was hard, right? And it was a very, very, very lonely time for me, because this was something that I had spent every single second of my off hour on, aside from work and aside from school. I mean, I was up until 2 a.m, working on this for months, for over a year, just trying to get a product in my hand. And then to do everything I could to push it out. It just never really panned out. And so I've been doing, I've been, trying to, find different ventures over the past, few years. And now I feel like I really do want to, not settle down, but, I want to make sure that I give 𝗏𝗧𝗧 everything I can in trying to make it successful. Whether that happens or not, who knows? But that's just kind of where it's gone, for me over the past few years, and just kind of the loneliness that I've gone through. But like I said, luckily I do have my wife, and she's extremely supportive, and it's something that I do think about all the time, because I think about, if I didn't have the support, I couldn't think about how lonely it would be, right? So imagine an entrepreneur who doesn't have, a supportive spouse or partner or, whatever, parents. My dad isn't the most supportive of my entrepreneurial ventures, only from the standpoint that he doesn't understand, right? He's worked, he's worked in construction the past 25 years. And he's always known, the consistency and the steady paycheck, and, being at work on one time and leaving every day, so there was just certain things that he doesn't necessarily understand about business. And so from that standpoint, he's never really understood, the struggles that I actually do go through. And so for that reason, I just never, I just kind of stopped talking to him about business, right? It's not that I don't want to talk to him about it. It was just that he just didn't really understand it. So I can only imagine somebody who only has themselves and their venture and what it is that they're trying to do. It's very, very hard. And I'm a very, very, very social person. I like to drink. I like to have fun. So I have friends. And over the past, 3 months, I haven't really talked to many of them. So, another part of lonely entrepreneurship is you don't really have a social life. And it's not something that I'm saying is permanent or anything like that, because, I love spending time with my friends, but it's just, there are times when you need to buckle down and you need to, really put the pedal to the metal and get things done. For lack of a better term, you need to get shit done. And the only way that that's going to happen is if you kind of isolate yourself and really put yourself in a position to focus on what it is that you need to do. And so with 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔𝗟, I've been, working the past 3 months just trying to get everything dialed in and ready for launch, because the last time I thought we did that, it didn't, right? So, Jenny, my web designer, was saying, she's like, I think you're just putting too much thought into this one thing. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. But what about this, and so I've just been so focused on trying to make things happen. And in addition to 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔𝗟, I've also, I know I've mentioned it previously, but I've also started doing, t-shirt printing. So I started doing, custom printing, not just, for the children's artwork, but I've also been doing it for business to business. And so, there's a lot of time and attention that goes into that as well, with making sure that the artwork is correct, with making sure that the t-shirts are correct if they want a certain brand, making sure the quantities, sizes, all that. And there's a lot of going back and forth, because once they're printed, right? So that's been taking quite a lot of time. But with that, I've been able to, slowly start to gain clients, because it's something that I've, started to put quite a lot of time into, and really a lot of effort. It's something that I've actually enjoyed doing, right? It's been extremely exhausting. I have not been sleeping. I probably wake up maybe 3 times a night, just because, my wife tells me, you got to write it down. You got to write things down. And even if I write things down, if my phone goes off, I'm up and I'm doing this. A lot of the people that I correspond with are, especially when it comes to, like I talked to you guys about Fiverr, right? So a lot of them are in different countries. And because a lot of them are different countries, 2 a.m. to them is, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm sorry, 2 a.m. to me is, 3 o'clock in the afternoon to them. So when they may not be responding to me all day. And when they do finally respond to me, it is in the middle of the night, and it might wake me up. And so I'll get up and I'll try to, figure things out. So it's been exhausting, but, to see, what has come of the past, few months of just buckling down. And I know I say few months, it's been a few months just to get it started, like just to, just to get things up and running. Like, it's not like it's been a success in 3 months, So just spending the past 3 months, just trying to grind these 2 things out, and the past, nights not sleeping has been extremely difficult. Sometimes I'll wake up and just kind of just sit on my bed, and just think, right? But it's been worth it. It really has. And I know that sounds really weird. And I know that this, episode might sound like a rant or a complaining episode, but it's the truth. It's really what you do deal with in entrepreneurship. But if it's you, it's you. And that's really how I feel. I had talked to Jenny, because she also does like organizational skills and things like that, but she was just kind of talking to me about what some of my business goals were. And why I liked entrepreneurship, and why I continue to do it. And I think that was the first time when I had actually, I didn't say it out loud because I typed it, but that was the first time I had actually expressed why entrepreneurship really meant something to me. And what I had told her was, I'm not a singer. I'm not, I'm not a musician. I'm not, I don't have like a hidden talent or anything like that, right? I'm just an average guy, was, decent at sports, but, could have never gotten paid for doing something like that. So I told her that with business, although I haven't had a business that's as successful as I would want, I feel like my talent is having the ability to persevere, through those different failed ventures, and to persevere through problem solving and figuring things out when I have no idea what I'm talking about, or even how to ask a question. And it not only is my ability to do that, I enjoy doing it. It's fun for me. Even though it sucks, in the midst of it all, I enjoy doing it because, number one, I meet new people. Like I said, I'm very social, so I meet new people. I learn a lot of new things. I mean, it's amazing, what you can do when you just start reaching out and asking questions. You can learn so much, and for me, that's rewarding in itself. I don't want to say it's a moral victory, if you will, but I don't want to say that a moral victory is okay for me, right? But it is something that I do find a lot of satisfaction in being able to do, because a lot of people would quit. A lot of people would not go as far as I would. A lot of people would not even attempt to do some of the things that I've done in some of the ventures that I've done. And even though they haven't always worked out, I've continued to stay at it because I enjoy doing it. I really, really do enjoy doing it. And everything that I start, I always give everything that I have, right? And so that's why it's always so bitter when it doesn't work out, is just because of all of the effort that I put into it. But just kind of going back to it, I haven't had a social life. My wife is at our friend's house right now. And, she asked if I wanted to go, and I said, well, yes, I do want to go, but I've got to record, and I've got to do things with the website. So she took my daughter, and now they're there, having a good time. And it's not that I'm not, I love doing this, right? So I'm having a good time as well. But you do sacrifice a lot of that social time sometimes. And for me, I have a lot of really, really cool friends that support me, and they know me for me, so they don't take it personally. So I'm really lucky, but I have seen situations where friends do take it personally, and it becomes are you too good for me, or are you don't want to hang out, and it's really got nothing to do with that, right? It's more. It's more that we feel like we're missing out by doing this, but at the same time, there is like a certain goal, and there is a certain mission that we as entrepreneurs and as business owners are trying to accomplish. And so it's a bittersweet type of situation, right? Because I do want to be out drinking with my friends. I do want to have a good time, and I do that, right? So I don't want you to get it twisted. Some people are like, bruh, like I was just with you the other day. No, but I do those things, but there are times where I've got to go on stints where I just got to buckle down, right? And so it's been one of those times. When I had started up eBay, it was the same exact thing. I was spending, every hour after work. As soon as I get home now, I tell my daughter hi, give her a hug, give her a kiss, and I pick her up from daycare and give her what she needs, and then I'm on the laptop working again. So I feel sometimes I feel like a shitty dad. I really do, and it's so weird because she loves it. She loves watching me work. She'll want to sit on my lap. She'll want to work with me, and we got her own little fake and play laptop and phone, because she likes to, she always says, "Look, Daddy, I'm like you, I'm working," and I love seeing that, so it just makes me feel shitty when she's right here, and I'm doing work, or yeah, I am doing work, not or I'm doing work. Sometimes she's not gonna be 3 forever, and so I feel shitty for it sometimes, but I know that she'll be thankful, and she appreciates the time that we do have together. And so that gets lonely too, right? When your wife or your partner wants to go out to dinner, or they want to watch a movie, right? You're like, well, I do, but I gotta work, and especially when there's those times where you're like in it, like you're plugged in, and you can't hear anything, you can't nothing, right? And so it's like every little distraction is like it's agony, right? And that sucks, because sometimes you can maybe come off as being an asshole, and it's really, that's not it, right? It's just you're just so focused on something that you start to block other things out, and that's not always good, especially when you do have a family, especially when you do have people who require that attention. But like I said, I am extremely lucky to have my wife who does understand and who does support me. So that's amazing. I am very lucky, but even with how lucky I am, it still gets lonely at times. She was out yesterday, and I was just stuck on something, and I just sat there with my hands on my head, right, or my head on my hands, and just kind of put my head down on the desk, and I just just sat there, just not even, like, I just kind of blanked out, because I was just so tired of thinking, and I was so tired of struggling with what I was struggling with. I just couldn't look at it anymore. And it sucked, and that happens very, very, very often, and it's something that's very difficult, when you feel like you can't turn to the people who support you, and it's not that they don't support you in this, or it's not that they don't want to talk to you about it, but it's just having to relate. It's a lot of people just don't relate to certain things, and that's very, very hard, because how do you explain something to somebody who can't really relate to your particular situation? And I guess, the way I deal with it is I've tried to become, I guess, what I started doing was, for a long time, I would just kind of bother people with like every aspect of it, because every aspect of it to me was very, very exciting. From getting a domain name, or to doing a photo shoot, whatever it is, right? Every aspect of the business is very, very meaningful to me, and so I just kind of imposed all of that on people, friends, family, my wife, when like really, like, a lot of that stuff it's not really that important. But then you realize people aren't really listening, because you're not really talking about anything, and so I number one, I kind of try to stop bothering people with it so much. But I started trying to focus myself around finding people who are interested. And by that, I mean, I'm not saying like ditching my current friends, because it's not like I'm, hanging out with these other people or instead of my friends, right? A lot of these friends are online. Jenny is in Washington. Rico is in, I think, what is he, North Carolina, South Carolina, something like that. And I talk to him all the time. And Tom, my eBay mentor, he's in Nevada, right? So a lot of these people are not local, but I have surrounded myself around people who have the same interests, who have the same type of goals when it comes to running and a successful business that I do, that I've been able to reach out to and actually express my current issues, and they've gone through the same thing. That's been very, very big over the last couple of years. And there was a point in time where I probably took like 2 years off of like just really doing anything business related. I stopped reading business articles, everything. I got so burnt out of it. After, I think it was like after I left Arizona, I just got so burnt out, and I just kind of stopped. I just turned it all off. And over time, I started noticing that I was becoming very bored. No matter what I did, I was just bored, and nothing was really interesting to me. And so that's when, I guess that's kind of when it hit me, and I started, quote unquote, accidentally getting into different things again. And one thing leads to another. Before you know it, I'm importing fidget spinners from China, selling them to the ice cream truck yard. So and then just kind of been going ever since. But it's just something it's almost like I don't choose to do this. It's just something I really enjoy. I really enjoy it. And, one of the biggest things is that I hope that, people can listen to this podcast, especially the few people that can listen to this podcast and really see that I am struggling to make it work as an entrepreneur. Even though I have, made money, it's not as easy as people might perceive it to be, right? But I hope that they take that and also see that I'm still doing it, right? So I just don't want people to be afraid, to express their entrepreneurial spirit, or to express their interest in, maybe finding something that can create an extra income. I know that there's more entrepreneurs now than ever, because to be honest with you, it's easier than ever. As hard as it is, it's easier than ever. And if you do want to start a business, there's no better time than now. There's no better resources than ever. I mean, you find anything on YouTube. YouTube is the starting point, right? You get to find all the bullshit. You get to find all the people trying to sell you stuff, and then you kind of just build out your research from there. And eventually you'll find, what it is that you like, or, what it is that works for that matter. And that's just kind of how it goes. But in the meantime, you do have to deal with the loneliness of being an entrepreneur, unless you surround yourself around people who are like-minded, right? And when I say like-minded, I just mean from a business perspective, because me and a lot of my friends are like-minded, but they just aren't into business. So find a lot of business-minded people, surround yourself around them, whether they're local or not, and, just continue to push through, because it's a long road. It's a very long road. It does not stop unless you quit. That's the only way it stops, is if you quit. So, it's fun for me, even though not so much at times. I can't see myself, doing, I don't know, like doing anything else with my time. I mean, if it's not this, it's going to be something else that catches my interest, or that I feel could be a good opportunity. But I'm not even thinking about that right now. I'm thinking about, launching 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔𝗟 and turning children's art into custom printed products, and hopefully, that takes me where I want to be from a satisfaction standpoint, right? I want to be able to look back and say, like, man, like, this, I built this, right? Whether it allows me to go full time or not, I just want to be back. I just want to look back and say, I created this, and it was worth it, and look around me and see the people who had my back the whole time, right? They saw me during those hard times, and they missed, they're the ones who missed me, right, when I was here, recording, or just doing what I needed to do to try to make it work. So it does get lonely. It does get hard. Don't be surprised if you if you find yourself crying in the shower. Some nights it gets rough, but if you enjoy doing it, you enjoy doing it, and that's really all that matters, because life is hard, life is not fair, and business is definitely right up there with being pretty brutal. Business doesn't care, and you just got to find a way to make things work. But if you do love something, and if you're good at something, then why not push through? I'm sure you've been through worse things in life, so why not just push through something like this? And that's kind of what I've been doing, and I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at, right now with 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔𝗟, and I'm happy, where I am with the goal that we have for it, and where we want to take it, and just kind of really looking forward to the rest of 2020, because I think it's going to be extremely impactful, not only for myself but for my family, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. That's really all that I've got for this episode. But if you do have any questions, like always, you can reach out to me on social media. On Instagram at @𝗦𝗢𝗓𝗓. You can reach out to me on Facebook at 𝗦𝗓𝗓𝗓, or you can search 𝗦𝗓𝗓𝗓 in Facebook, and you should be able to find me there as well. But if you do have any questions, as always, please reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to try to give you advice, like, wherever I can, and hopefully assist you in taking that next step. But thank you again for listening. Until next time, peace.